Idam bhagavatam nama puranam brahma samhitam adhitavan dvaparado pitur dvaipayanadaham. Idam bhagavatam nama puranam brahma samhitam adhitavan dvaparado pitur dvaipayanadaham. Idam bhagavatam nama puranam brahma samhitam adhitavan dvaparado pitur dvaipayanadaham.
Idam bhagavatam nama puranam brahma samhitam adhitavan dvaparadhau pitur dvaipayanad aham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Idam bhagavatam nama puranam brahma samhitam adhitavana dvaparadau pitur dvaipayanad aham.
Thank you, Madhusudan. Anyone else? David, Prabhu, you want to try? Okay, let's go forward. Idam, this, Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nama of the name, Puranam, Vedic supplement, Brahma Samhitam, approved as the essence of Vedas, Adhitavan, studied, Dvaparado, at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, Pituhu, from my father, Dvaipayanat, Dvaipayana Vyasadev, Aham, myself. Translation and purport by Jivan Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas, from my father, Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. Purport. The statement made by Srila Sukadeva Goswami that the topmost transcendentalist, who is beyond the jurisdiction of regulations and restrictions, mainly takes to the task of hearing about and glorifying the personality of Godhead, is verified by his personal example. Sukadeva Goswami, being a recognized liberated soul and the topmost transcendentalist, was accepted by all of the topmost sages present in the meeting during the last 7 days of Maharaj Parikshit. He cites from the example of his life that he himself was attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord, and he studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Sri Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, any other scientific literature, cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Medical books of anatomy or physiology are available in the market, but no one can become qualified medical practitioner simply by reading such books at home. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of learned professors. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of the science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vyasadeva. Although Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons of Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Vyasadeva, who compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of another great soul, Sri Narada Muni. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed a learned Brahmana to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a personal Bhagavata. Srimad Bhagavatam is based on the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, entourage, and variegatedness of the Supreme Person, and it is spoken by the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, Srila Vasudev. Pastimes of the Lord are executed in cooperation with his pure devotees, and consequently, historical incidents are mentioned in this great literature because they are related to Krishna. It is called Brahma Samhitam because it is the sound representative of Lord Krishna. Like the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representative of the Lord because it was spoken by the incarnation of the Lord about the activities of the Lord. As stated in the beginning of this book, it is the essence of the Vedic desire tree and the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras and the topmost philosophical thesis on the subject matter of Brahman. Vyasadeva appeared at the end of the Dwapara Yuga as the son of Satyavati, and therefore the word Dwaparado, or the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, in this context means just prior to the beginning of the Kali Yuga. The logic of this statement, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of the tree beginning. The root of the tree is the beginning of the tree, but in common knowledge, the upper portion of the tree is first seen. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as its beginning. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay. Before speaking on this glorious verse today, I would like to take permission and blessings from all the assembled devotees here in Zoom platform. Devi, you're the only one I can see visibly. Thank you. The translation again. Thank you, David. At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas from my father, Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. So this verse today, that is the continuation from yesterday's verse. How, like Mother Shana Bhakti, she very clearly explained with a chart that yesterday's verse was about Sukadeva Goswami was explaining about the topmost transcendentalist, right? So the topmost transcendentalist is, the topmost transcendental are those who are above the regulative principles and restrictions. And they take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. So it was yesterday. And now, here, the verse starts itself with Idam Bhagavatam Nama. Right? Yesterday's verse was ended in let me see yesterday's verse ended on Guna Kathana Hare.
Guranu
Gunanu Kathane Hare. Describing the glories of the Lord. And today, Sukadeva Goswami is starting with Idam Bhagavatam. Means this is the Bhagavatam which describes the glories of the Lord. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, from the middle, not in the beginning, but in the middle, he says, what is Srimad Bhagavatam? He says Srimad Bhagavatam. Here, sorry to give you all the way down. Srimad Bhagavatam. From here, he starts saying, what is Srimad Bhagavatam? Srimad Bhagavatam is based on the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, antaras, and variegatedness of the Supreme Person, and it is spoken by the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, Srila Dāsi. Pastimes of the Lord are executed in cooperation with his pure devotees, and consequently historical incidents are mentioned in this great literature because they are related to Krishna. And he says, it is called Brahma Samhitam because it is the sound representative of Lord Krishna, like the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representative of the Lord because it was spoken by the incarnation of the Lord about the activities of the Lord. Right? And then, as stated in the beginning of this book, it is the essence of the Vedic desire tree and natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras, the topmost philosophical thesis on the subject matter of Brahman. So, here he is saying Srimad Bhagavatam is Brahma Samhitam. And in the word for word meaning, Srila Prabhupada writes, approved as the essence of Vedas. So, and then we already read first canto in the first 3 verses. It is like elaborately explained about Srimad Bhagavatam and the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? And the 3rd verse of that first canto, first chapter, proves today's verse, like proves for Srimad Bhagavatam to be an essence of Vedic literature. It says, the famous verse, Vindavali, Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam, right? Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam. So it is the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. And another point Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in this purport, he says, Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord. And because the Lord himself is speaking the verses to Arjuna or us. And then he says, whereas Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representative of the Lord. Or in simple terms, we can say Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord speaks about bhakti, right? Like all those knowledge we can see, like Lord Krishna is giving to us through Arjuna. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is the compilation of the Lord's activities in response to his devotees' devotion. Or we can say it is a practical compilation of the practical examples of the Lord, which he was speaking in Bhagavad Gita. So, and in today's verse, Sukadeva Goswami is giving his own personal example. Now go back to our beginning of the purport. Here he says, the statement made by Srila Sukadeva Goswami that the topmost transcendentalist in yesterday's verse, who is beyond the jurisdiction of regulation and regulations, the regulations and restrictions, mainly takes to the task of hearing about and glorifying the personality of Godhead, is verified by his personal example. It is saying it is verified by his personal example. Sukadev Goswami, being a recognized liberated soul and the topmost transcendentalist, was accepted by all of the topmost sages present in the meeting during the last 7 days of Maharaj Parikshit. He cites from the example of his life that he himself was attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord, and he studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Sri Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. In Brahma, like going back to like how he got attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam, in Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Sukadev Goswami, it is mentioned that Sukadev Goswami was actually a pet parrot of Srimati Radharani. So when the earthly pastime was about to fold or like wrap up, Srimati Radharani requests Sukha, her parrot, to stay back in this world. And to which Sukha doesn't agree, and he says, I don't want to stay without you, because Sukha was her pet parrot. Then Srimati Radharani assures Sukha that wherever the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord are being narrated, you will not feel separation from me. Thus, he had to agree. Thus, the parrot Sukha started looking out for a place where Harikatha was going on. And he finally reached Kailash. We heard this story many times, right? Kailash, where Mahadev, Lord Shiva, was narrating this reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to Parvati. There is also another story behind why he was narrating story to Parvati. I'm not going to that. So, like as a normal tendency, like in class, we sleep. So Mother Parvati, whenever she was listening, so he dozed off. So Sukha was hiding in the tree, right, hearing that Srimad Bhagavatam, and when in the it was the what was that condition made, like Lord Shiva said, like, how do I know that you're listening to my Bhagavatam? So he tells Mother Parvati, you have to make some sound like yes, no, or ha, like that. And then she says, okay, I will. And then she keeps saying like some kind of sound, maybe not like exactly. And then she falls asleep. But Sukadev Goswami, not Sukadev Goswami, Sukha, the parrot, wanted to hear it. Mother Parvati falls asleep. So parrot starts making sound like something. So almost at the end, Mother Parvati gets up, right? She wakes up from her dream or sleep. And then Lord Shiva asked, like, look, so how was it? How are you feeling? Like, how is it going? And then she was like, oh, I'm sorry, I fell asleep. And then Lord Shiva said, who was that? Who was then making sound, that similar sound? And then he starts looking around and he says, parrot, Sukha hiding in the tree. And then he's like, oh, like, no one eligible should be hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, and it was without permission. So he starts chasing that Sukha, parrot, running everywhere. And then again, Sukha started flying away. Lord Shiva followed him. Finally, the parrot reached Vedabhyasa's ashram, where Vedabhyas was narrating Srimad Bhagavatam to his wife, Bitika, there also. And Bitika was yawning, same thing again, starting to fall asleep, like, ah. And at that moment, when she opens her mouth, the Sukha, parrot, enters her mouth, hides, like to hide from Lord Shiva, right? And then Vyasadeva tells Lord Shiva that anyone who already heard Srimad Bhagavatam means that is eternal, that you cannot kill anyone. And like that way, he convinces Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva goes away. But now that Sukha inside Vitika's body takes the form of a baby, and he doesn't want to come out, right? And another version of the story is like Vasudev wanted a son to carry on his lineage of Srimad Bhagavatam for disciplic success, and that was also there. And it is like somewhere it is said 14 years, somewhere it is said 16 years, but mostly we hear 16 years. So for 16 years, Sukha stays in Mother Bitika's womb, doesn't want to come out because he was too scared that if I come out, Maya will catch me and I'll forget Krishna or I'll forget Radharani, right? And then Vyasadeva tells him, like, if you come out, Maya will not do anything. You are already elevated. You already heard Srimad Bhagavatam, all those things. But he doesn't want to come out. Then Vyasadeva had to request Lord Sri Krishna in Dwarka. So Lord Krishna had to come and tell Sukha that my Maya will not do anything to you. Please come out. You have a reason to be here, right? And then he comes out. But what he does? Straight away he walks to the forest. He doesn't even look back. And that's why, like, we'll see in, I think in first canto also it was already discussed, and in second canto also it is coming in later chapter, that Sukadev Goswami is also known as Brahmarata, and Parikshit Maharaj is known as Vishnu Rata. Like, that is another different topic. Brahmarata means he was protected by Brahma. Brahma means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. Like he said, like, my Maya will not do anything, and he already heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Lord Shiva, and he heard from Srila Vyasadeva again in Mother Deepika's womb, and then we'll see, like, he will hear Srimad Bhagavatam again from Vyasadeva when he gets out. But now he's going straight away, walking to the forest. He doesn't want to be entangled in this whole world, right? And this, and I think in Srimad, in first canto, second chapter, second verse, in the translation, Srila Prabhupada wrote that Suta Goswami is offering obeisances to Sukadev Goswami, like introduction to Sukadev Goswami. He says, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the great sage Sukadev Goswami, who can enter the hearts of all. And he says, when he went away to take up the renounced order of life, sannyasa, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread or the ceremonies observed by the higher caste, his father, Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, "Oh, my son!" Indeed, only the trees which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation echoed in response to the bigger father. I mean, it is a proof where it says Sukadev Goswami just walked away after getting birth. He didn't turn back. But we see in today's verse, Sukadev Goswami is saying that he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Srila Vyasadeva, his father. How is that? Right? In first canto, we saw that he walked away after birth. But now he is saying, I heard it from my father. In between that second chapter, second verse to today's verse, it is nowhere mentioned that Sukadev Goswami was reading Bhagavatam or he was hearing Bhagavatam, anything. But all of a sudden now in today's verse, he's saying, I heard from it with this from my father. And that will be actually explained in next verse, tomorrow's verse, right? He mentions that he was attracted by the enlightened verse. We'll see in tomorrow. And then when in the situation back to again when Sukadev Goswami was walking away from his home, Srila Vedavas, like, he wanted his lineage to carry on, but now he's walking away. His son is walking away. Now what do you do? So he saw it was not like possible for him to bring him back. So now he sends his disciples, right? Because he knew that he was already, like Mother Archana Bhakti told yesterday, what? Sukadev Goswami was already what? Brahmanubhavi, right? The word, exact word, Brahmanubhavi from that chart. He was already Brahmanubhavi at his birth. Transcendental in the level of Jnana platform. We saw like two platforms yesterday you see showed that chart. One was from Bhakti, one was from Jnana or impersonalism, right? So he was on the left side of topmost level of Brahmanubhavi. And Vedas already knew that. So now he sends his disciples to chant selected verses, like it is mentioned 2 verses mainly, to like wherever Sukadev Goswami is, let him hear that verses. And then the disciples chant, one of the disciples chants that verse loudly enough so that Sukadev Goswami can hear. Sukadev, like, keep in mind that Sukadev Goswami just took birth. He was 16 years old already when he took birth, and he's not dressed. He didn't have time to think about dressing, like covering himself or anything. He just walked away. And in first canto, we saw that when he was walking, the ladies were taking bath in the river, and they didn't care about covering themselves, like, because Sukadev Goswami was not in this platform. And but when Vyasadeva was following him, they start covering themselves, right? I'm not going back to first canto. So now when the disciple of Srila Vyasadeva in the forest chants this verse, Sukadeva Goswami gets so much attracted and he comes back slowly back to the disciple. He wants to learn more. And what are those two verses? Any guesses? Anyone can guess? Those two famous verses. No? Very nice verses. One is from 3rd canto and one is from 10th canto. Okay, let me say a verse. This is very nice verse. I will share that verse too. Go to Canto 3. It's 2, no, sorry, chapter 2, text 23. Any guesses still now? No? It's a famous verse about Putana. Uddhava is saying about how merciful the Lord was. Right? So, Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigham sayapaya sadhi levhe katim dhatriuchitam tatunyam kamba dayalum saranam rajema. Kamba dayalum saranam rajema. Right? So here Uddhava, actually this is the verse Uddhava is speaking. Uddhava is saying about Lord. Here, alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a sea-demon, Putana? Although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. I mean, we can't think of that Dayalu, mercifulness of Lord, right? So this is the one verse Vasudev sends, tells his disciple to recite. And the other one is from 10th canto. I'll share that too.
His 2nd canto, you said, right?
This is 3rd canto, 3 to 23.
3 to 23.
Verse, yeah.
Second one is 10th canto, 10.
Second is 10, I'll share it here. 10, 21 chapter, and verse is number 5. See that?
Mhm.
That was about the mercifulness of Lord, and this is about the beauty of the Lord. How beautiful is our Lord, right? So here, Varahapidam Natavara Papuhu Karnayo Karnikaram Bifrat Bhasa Kanakakapisham Vaijayantim Chamalam Randhan Venor Adharasudhaya Urayan Kopapinde Vrindaranyam Swapadaramanam Pravishad Gita Kirtihi. So he was singing in very nice tune, not like this. And what is the meaning? Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head. Mother Brinda will be on to read this. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, translation by Srila Prabhupada. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnikara flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavana, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. Hare Krishna, beautiful.
So these are two verses. Vasudev sends to his disciple to recite wherever Sukadeva Goswami was wandering, right? And after hearing these verses, slowly Sukadeva Goswami starts coming back, and the disciples, he asked the disciples, how did you, tell me more? And then the disciples said, if you want to learn more, you have to go to my spiritual master. And who was the spiritual master? It was Srila Vasudev. So then he comes back and he starts to learn Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. So back to our purport again. So here. And he studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Sri Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, Any other scientific literature cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Srila Prabhupada is warning us. Medical books of anatomy or physiology are available in the market, but no one can become a qualified medical practitioner simply by reading such books at home. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of learned professors. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of the science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vasudev. Srila Vasudev, where are we? Although Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons of Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father Vasudev, who compiled Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of another great soul, Sri Narada Muni. So Srila Prabhupada is stressing us again on the disciplic succession, that we have to learn Guru Sisya Parampara. There's a disciplic succession, which Srila Prabhupada, he focuses so much, because we don't have that ability or that capacity to understand the spiritual science on our own. And he gives the example that even the medical science or whatever the mundane education we get in this world, we cannot learn on our own. We need someone to guide us, to teach us. So what we speak of the great spiritual science, right? I have one audio clip of Srila Prabhupada stressing on the importance of hearing from disciplic succession, or on the basically on the importance of hearing. I'll say it at the end of this class after the purport is done. Okay. And I mean, we can hear so many stories out there, so many pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam itself about the glories of hearing. Srinvatam, Sukatam, Krishna, right? So hearing, the first step of our devotional process. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. So first step is hearing. Once we hear, and then we can develop that taste for other services. Or Srila Prabhupada in the audio, he'll say like, even if one just masters in hearing, his life is successful. So there are many stories. Like one of the stories I can remember, like, like in even professional Bhagavatam, they recite this one. This is a story about Gokarna and Dhundukari, right? The two brothers. It's 8:30 already. I think I will not go to the story, but the importance.
Today Sunday.
Okay, so shortcut in the short. There was a Brahmana. His name was Atmadev, right? So Atmadev was very pious, religious Brahmana. But like after so many years of marriage, he didn't have any offspring. Not only that, the plant, even the tree, whatever he plants, that tree will also doesn't give any fruits. Or even animal, cow, or any animals he tends at home, they don't have any offsprings too. So it's like, what is this? Like, very, he gets so frustrated from life, and then he wants to take sannyas. So he walks away from his home and he goes to the forest, and he was like so stressful. And there he meets one sadhu, and he tells about his problem. Like, I so many years I don't have any offspring. Like the plants, even the animals, whatever I owe or whatever I tend, they don't have any, they don't give any offspring. So there should be something wrong with me. What should I do? And then first the sadhu tells like, no, you take sannyas, that's okay. Like this life you've got in human form of life, so don't waste it, like kind of, because you, in the other form of story, it's also said that he wanted to commit suicide. So the sadhu suggests him to take sannyas, but he was like, like how it's not easy to take sannyas. And then he's like, maybe there is some way that I can have a son, and it will be like the problem will be solved, which is not. But and then sadhu, okay, then meditates for a while, and then he gives one fruit and tells like, okay, give this fruit to your wife, and tell her to do like fasting for a year or some, like there are different versions, but he gives the fruit. And then he goes home, gives that fruit to his wife, and the wife was not as pious as Atmadev. Her name was Dhunduli. She's very what do we call it? Like Rakshasi Swabhav, right? Like demoniac nature. And she was very obsessed about her beauty and her wealth. So it's like, if I get pregnant, I will be big, and then I can move around, I can eat enough. And if some dacoits come, I can't run with my wealth, they'll kill me, all those kinds. So she was like, no, I'm not going to get pregnant. And then she was thinking like this, and her sister comes in, like they were same clan. So her sister was also demoniac. So she tells everything to her sister, and her sister, so why don't we, I'm already pregnant, why don't we trade? Like, you give some wealth to my husband, and I'll give this, like, whatever baby I get, I'll give it to you, and then you can tell your husband that you got the baby, and whatever the fruit, and then she does give it to your cow. Cow will eat it. So that was very precious fruit, actually. So they somehow feeds to cow, and after a few months, like, she announces that now I ate fruit, now I'm pregnant, all those things. And then when her sister begets a child, she gets that child to saying that it's my child. And after a few months, the cow also gives birth to a baby, but that baby was very extra, I mean, unique. The cow's baby is like calf, but he was like human form, but he had a long ears like cow. That's why his name was Gokarna. And the baby which Dhunduli now got from her sister is named Dhundakari. Right? Both of them, like, they now Atmadev like raises them both because they were both born in his house. So those brothers, like, they start now like growing up, and from the birth itself, Gokarna was very inclined to scriptures, very like sober, intelligent, always wanting to learn more, like Brahmana quality. But Dhundakari was opposite. They're very demoniac, killing, like doing robbery, all those stuff, like, drinking, like mingling with women, all those sort of sinful activities. And his father Atmadev gets so depressed that he didn't take Gokarna as his son because it's from cow. And so he was like very frustrated seeing his son. So he leaves house and he goes. Now he goes for sannyasa, he attends moksha. He's gone. And Dhundakari, his height of sinful activities goes so much that he starts beating his mom, like, give me wealth, I need to go out with girls or whatever. She gets so upset. Like, in some version, it said that he beat her up so badly that she died. And in the other versions, it says like she jumped in the well and she committed suicide because of his activities. Now he was free. And then Gokarna also starts for pilgrimage. It's like, I don't have to do it because Dhundakari was not listening to Gokarna anyway. So he starts for pilgrimage. Now Dhundakari starts doing all kind of anything he wants, and he brings prostitutes at his home, and he like steals wealth from king's palace. So the prostitutes, thinking that if the king comes to know that Dhundakari has his wealth, he will kill him, or he'll take him and he'll take all these wealth. So the prostitutes kill Dhundakari very in very precarious situation. I think it is said that they put the burning coal in his mouth. Very precariously, they kill him, Dhundakari. And Gokarna was in pilgrimage, but somehow the news, the villagers will take that news to Gokarna and says that Dhundakari is no more. And now then in Gaya, he does his Shraddha ceremony, and he comes back to his house. And when he comes back to his village, Gokarna starts seeing all those bad signs, like in the dark, and some fairy animal coming, like something is going. So since he was very pious and he is very intellectual, Gokarna senses that something is wrong. So he starts speaking to that soul who was like hovering around Gokarna, but that soul couldn't speak, And then he says like, then he does again some dance, something. And then that soul who was Dhundakari, right? He says whatever happened, and then but Gokarna says, I did Shraddha already, so you should be already delivered. And then he says, no, that one Shraddha will not deliver me because I have done so much sins, I cannot be delivered. So you have to do something more. You have to do like 1,000 such Shraddhas, then I can be delivered. And then Gokarna like consults with other Brahmanas, Vaishnava devotees, and then he holds the Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days.
Oh.
From there, this professional Srimad Bhagavatam recitation started coming. Like he holds this Srimad Bhagavatam continuously day and night to recite. Gokarna starts reciting and he makes Dhundakari to stay because he is in subtle body. He couldn't stay in one place. That's why they made this hollow bamboo. Bamboo is hollow in the inside, right? So it had like 7 steps. So in the bamboo, Dhundakari stays in that bamboo, and then other devotees are also there, or other villagers are also there. And then Gokarna starts reciting Srimad Bhagavatam from first canto, right? And when the first day, at the end of the first day, the first step, what is called that knot in the bamboo cracks. Similarly, on the last of the 7 days, all the 7 knots crack, and Dhundakari comes out with a very opulent what is called Vishnu Rupa, kind of like 4-handed form, and he thanks Gokarna, and he's taken by the Puspa Viman or Garuda, like he's taken away. And then further to the story, then Gokarna asks, like, how come like everyone is listening to Srimad Bhagavatam and he's the only one got delivered, no one else? Right? And to this question, I forgot who answered this, and he said, like, because Dhundakari was the only one who very attentively listened to every word of Srimad Bhagavatam for all those 7 days, right? Day and night. Like people will be tired, they'll go for coffee break, tea break, like in this professional Srimad Bhagavatam Saptaha. So there is break time, there's prasadam, there's nap time, all those things. But it was like for 7 days, 7 nights, no breaks. And Dhundakari, even like, I don't know, it is not mentioned properly. I don't know if they had overnight or not, but Dhundakari was contemplating constantly on whatever he heard all day. Like he was like very attentively listening and contemplating Srimad Bhagavatam. So he got delivered. So that is the power of hearing.
So that's why it says Saptaham all the time. Bhagavatam.
Yeah. From there started actually. Yeah. Okay, that was the story about the importance of hearing. And then back to our purport again. Okay, where is it? Here. Now, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed a learned Brahmana to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a person, Bhagavata. Srila Prabhupada just hinted one line from Chaitanya Charitamrita. He is very clever. And now you start opening this line, it will be so big. And who is that person of Brahman? Who was that Brahmana? Any cases? It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Not getting. Not getting.
No?
I'm not remembering.
It is one Goswami actually.
Sutta Goswami?
No, one of the Sat Goswami. 6
Sad Goswami.
One of them. That was Raghunath Bhatta Goswami.
Not Bhatta Goswami.
So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Lord Brahmana to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a personal Bhagavata. You know, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was the son of Tapan Mishra. Right? If we remember Chaitanya Charitamrita again back. So Tapan Mishra is the one who fed lunch to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was traveling to Vrindavan and back from Vrindavan, right? After his sannyasa. And it is the time when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives that Rupa Siksha for 10 days in Dasaswamedha Ghat. After that, for 2 months, he gives instruction to Sanatana Goswami in Varanasi. It is the time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is staying at Chandrasekhar's house, right? And Tapan Mishra, and he used to take lunch at Tapan Mishra's house. And Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is the son of Tapan Mishra, who used to massage Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was staying there. And after a few years, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, because he used to get all direct Maha from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He was a kid. And after a few years, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, when he grows, he wants to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wants to go. And Tapan Mishra sends him like, okay, go. And then he takes one servant. He goes to Puri, meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he stays with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 8 long months. 8 months he was doing service, like cooking. He was expert cook, like in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think in, where is it? In Ante Leela, it is in 13th chapter, it is stated he was expert cook. Whatever he cooked was nectarian. There is a verse. And so after 8 months, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, now you should go back. Go back, take care of your aged parents, but don't get married. He said, no, never marry. Take care of your parents and then come back to me. Right? Once they are done with their life, you can come back like that. It is in, if you want to go, it is in Ante Leela, 13th chapter. It is 13 verse, if I'm not wrong. The verse is like, Vriddha mata pita rajai kara hasevana Vaishnava pasa bhagavata kara dhyayana. I mean, it means go. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Raghunath Bhatta, when you return home, serve your aged father and mother who are devotees and try to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure Vaishnava who has realized God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, and why Srila Prabhupada is quoting this here is that he is also saying that we should not read Srimad Bhagavatam by ourselves. We need to study from a person Bhagavata. Right? We already went through this. I remembered one conversation. Exactly I can't remember. I can't quote the reference, but one of the Srila Prabhupada disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, like, why? Like, I'm reading your books. Do I need to take initiation or do I need a guru kind of question? And then, Mother Vrindavan is laughing. What Srila Prabhupada said? He'll say like, yeah, you can read book also, but book cannot do like this. And he turns his like, does this to his disciple like, that's why you need a living person Bhagavata.
Shravanam is the important.
So we already went through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we did this at the end. Srila Prabhupada is saying, where is it? Vasudeva appeared. Okay, from here we have to do. Vasudeva appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga as the son of Satyavati, and therefore the word Dwaparado, or the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, in this context means just prior to the beginning of Kali Yuga. The logic of this statement, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of the tree the beginning. The root of the tree is the beginning of the tree, but in common knowledge, the upper portion of the tree is first seen. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as its beginning. Are we getting the point? It's like when we see the tree, we don't see from root to tip. Like from far away, we first see the tip or the top of the tree. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. And when we look at the commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and even in Krama Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami is saying, is elaborately saying about this Dwaparado. Yeah, and then what is that word here? Brahma Samhitam. Like, it looks simple, but it is explained very detailedly in all those commentary by Sridhar Swami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Jiva Goswami in his Krama Sandarbha. And Jiva Goswami in his Gopal Tapani Upanishad, he says Brahma Samhitam means it is equal to Brahma. And what is Brahma? Brahma is that Parabrahma who is Narakriti. Who is Narakriti? Narakriti, that is Lord Krishna. Narakriti. Brahma in Narakriti form. Okay, let's hear from Srila Prabhupada. These are at the end, the importance of hearing. I have to stop this one, I guess, first, and then I can share. Okay, let's hear from Srila Prabhupada. It's 4 minutes long.
It's good.
Let me know if you can't hear it. Can you hear it?
Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Parastasmatu bhava anya. Bhava, or sabhava, or nature. There is another nature. So we have to hear. By hearing, this is the beginning of bhakti. Sarvanam. Savanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. We have to hear, and after hearing, we have to repeat. That is called Kirtana. So, in this way, there are 9 different processes, you know. Navadha Bhakti. Savanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasam, Sakham, Atmanivedanam. So, because these activities, devotional activities, are on the spiritual platform, all of them are absolute. It is not that if you are hearing but you are not chanting, then your result will be little less than the other who is hearing and chanting. No. It is absolute truth. It's like if you taste a sugar candy, lump of sugar candy, from any side you taste, the sweetness is there. There is no difference that if you taste this side, then it is more sweet than the other side. Krishna is complete, absolute truth. So, any side, if you become expert in hearing, that is as good as one is engaged in other 8 processes or 9 processes. That is stated in the Shastra, just like Parikshit Maharaj. He simply listened. He did not do any other process. Sri Vishnu Savane Parikshit. They got liberation simply by executing one of the 9 different processes. So, Sri Vishnu Savane Parikshit Abhavad Vaya Sagikirtana. Parikshit Maharaj got liberation simply by hearing. And Sukadeva Goswami, he got liberation simply by chanting. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, he got liberation simply by memorizing, smarane. Lakshmi ji, simply by serving the lotus feet of Narayana. So, Krishna consciousness is in the absolute platform. There is no relativity.
Hare Krishna. It is absolute. With this, I'll stop for today's verse. Kantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Wonderful information.
It's 9 a.m. If anyone has any realization or more points to add, please I'm not saying question.
It was a nice informative class. Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you
got
very much.
lots of information about Gokarna and other things. Thank you.
Is that Mother Golokananda?
Yeah, thank you very much
Ah.
for speaking about the importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are trying to do it in our day-to-day life, you know. Hope one day we also get purified, you know, by regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And we make several nice poets about it, you know, about like Mother Vidya Bali say Gokarna. And other devotees who constantly hearing
Sad
Srimad
story,
Bhagavatam.
Karna, all those things are very good.
One of the story is the one I think even ISKCON. Before coming to ISKCON, everyone knows about that because it's like famous. Even the professional reciter says that story.
And then in this, I just felt like Prabhupada was saying that, going to medical anatomy, and then physiology, going straight up to that. No, we cannot do anything like that. We have to learn from the scratch,
Yeah.
So that is a very good thing he did. And that is, he said, another thing is a postgraduate thing, that is really, we have to think about it. Not that, I just sit in the class one day and I know everything. I cannot say like that. So lots of things to know about each and every canto. First canto we just finished. We had so much in that. And our second canto we started. From the beginning itself, it is lots of information is there. Then when can we finish all the cantos? Oh God, I don't know whether I'll be living or not. I pray Krishna. So at least I could listen a little bit before I go. Really, thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you. Very exemplary, always attending class with your video on.
Really. The way Prabhupada was saying, Savanam Kirtanam. Yes, we have to do all that, not that reading books and then I'm done with 18 cantos. That's it. No, how much we'll understand. Yesterday, Archana Bhakti Mataji was saying that, and the jnani and then devotee. So the chat she was giving, it was very much informative. That's what I asked her, give me the chat. I have to go by step only as a devotee. Lot of information, every class we are getting. Thanks to Zoom class and thanks to technology. And all those things we didn't have before. So before we are depending on reading on like that only, but not. Now technology is improved and we're getting thanks to everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mother Devi. Yes, it was very nice.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you very much for your very nice class. It was really nice to hear from you the Gokarna story. You said it very nicely. And I'll thank you for letting us know about those two verses that Vyasa's disciples sang to bring Shukdev Goswami home from forest. Those two verses are really very beautiful. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, and then don't forget that verse about Putana, Aho Bakiyam Stanaka. That verse was when, remember in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Gadadhar Pandit goes to see, what was that? His guru later on? Oh my God. Pundarik
Vidyanidhi, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mother Golokan. Yes, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, like he was very rich, and when Gadadhar Pandit sees that, oh, this should not be a Vaishnava. Vaishnava should be like, I mean, they don't have anything. Like he's very rich of chewing pan. He should not be a Vaishnava. Like that thought comes in Gadadhar Pandit's mind. And Mukunda Datta, sensing that Gadadhar Pandit's thought, he also recites this verse, Aho Bakiyam Stanakal. When he recites this verse, that Pundarik Vidyanidhi was seated in high seat with, all pan and everything. He starts rolling. throwing everything. Astavikar Bhav starts coming. And after saying this, Gadadhar Pandit is like, oh my God, I committed offense saying that he should not be a Vaishnava. Like he's such a great person. Like listening to this verse, that Astavikar Bhav came to Pundariki then, and then as an, what do we call, like punishment or to correct that offense, Gadadhar Pandit accepts Pandari Vidyanidhi as his spiritual master.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, without spiritual master, we don't know. We will be fish out of water. That's
Yeah,
it.
it means like Gadadhar Pandit was judging him according to his appearance. So that's why,
Appearance.
yeah, we don't judge a devotee by the appearance. You know, some devotees will dress so appearance. We don't know the heart of the devotee.
Yeah.
So this is one lesson we can hear. Don't judge people according to what your perception is.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you. Kalpesh Prabhu, anything? You always have something nice to add.
Sir, my humble obeisances. Mataji, you mentioned really good points in the class, and particularly the hearing, and that is where the bhakti starts. So I'm in that process right now, trying to hear, and if I don't understand, then or I want to know more, then I ask questions. That is the best way of learning, you know.
Yes.
And also I'm seeing like, okay, after I hear, I ask questions, but then I have to also read. That will help me to make sure that I remember those things properly. And then the next step is how to constantly contemplate that. Okay, I heard, I asked the question, how am I going to engage into service and try to implement this. So that is also thing which I'm trying, but I'm struggling, of course, because not everything I hear I implement. So because this is where the consciousness will fall down, right? When we hear the scriptural knowledge and then we don't practice it, and we just do it for sake of for doing it, then really the consciousness will not really come, Krishna consciousness. So that is what my realization would be like. Okay, how do we hear and not think, okay, I will do it tomorrow, next day or something. We should try to meditate hard on it and see, okay, how can I do it today, now, you know. That's how I see it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice. Yes. That's why Srila Prabhupada always focuses on association of devotees. We should hear Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. Right? Aikantaki harera bhakti utpataiva kaupate. Right? If we do like a solitary bhajan or solitary bhakti, then we'll fall down. And then, like there is that story of Bharat Maharaj, right? He leaves his kingdom, all kingdom, and he goes to do bhakti bhajan near Kali Gandaki. And what happens? He sees a deer. He gets attached to deer.
That's true.
He was already in Bhava or Prema level. Someone says Bhava, someone says Prema. He was in that level, but he falls. Because he was not in the association of the devotees. He was doing Ekantiki Bhakti. Right? So I'm very thankful for the association. Like, even though not in person, we have online this association, at least something than nothing, right?
That's what I was telling you. The Zoom makes a lot of difference, and then association with the people, devotees. It is very interesting. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. So, if David Prabhu, are you going to say anything?
He always says that.
No, he's going to say something.
What he says, he does like this. Thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah, he's kind of frozen for a while.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, then.
It's very nice. David is regularly hearing.
Let me hear.
For the Fijawali, they were like regular
I don't know how much I
on
get.
Zoom. On Zoom.
So I'm listening every day. At least I'll get a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Okay,
you.
then.
Thank you, Shyamagori.
Thank you so much.
Vantakarupyascha krupasindhopya eva cha.
Kapajitanam Pavani viewers.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Antakoti Vaishnavaki.
Hi.
Jai.
Thank you. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai.